We will start with the first part of our afternoon session. And I will explain how I intend to deal with today's timeline with regard to the agenda items. We will first open and continue our deliberations on the agenda item 7.1, which is Sanctuaries, South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary. And then we will continue with the agenda item 6.3, which is Finance and Administration. So the two groups of documents we still have open, biennial budget and documents of working group on operational effectiveness. And then, depending on the time, potentially also agenda item 8, resolutions. I see request for the floor from Brazil.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was surprised because this is not what I have agreed with you in the like-minded meeting. We had agreed that we would start with finance and administration matters today. And this would be the session of this afternoon. And then I see now that you are starting by discussing the resolution 7.1 in the agenda. And I see that some delegations are not present here. And so I wonder, why are we discussing something that we cannot approve without the presence of or part of the significant numbers of delegations? Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. We had just a bureau meeting, and I heard the advice from countries present in the bureau. And hearing that advice, I understood that it will be possible to discuss this agenda now. And regarding the presence in the room, I will still come to that point. Thank you. I have a request from... No, okay.
I would like to also know if we are going to discuss SOLs today. I want a list of the countries that are absent from the meeting right now. I would like you to read it loud, please.
Yes, I said I will come to that. You were too quick with your button. I will come to that. I was first explaining how I intend to deal with the agenda items for today's session, and then I will come to this agenda item as well. I have Argentina, so please, Argentina, take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As you all know, a bureau meeting has taken place 5 minutes ago. The chair invited a representative of the countries who are not currently attending this session, participating in this session. And there was, in principle, a proposal emerging from that meeting that, in case it is accepted by the plenary, we could go forward. The proposal would be to continue to deal with 7.1, requesting you, Mr. Chairman, to register by name all the countries that have left the room, then taking statements of all of us willing to express our opinion and interpretation of the way of the rules of procedure. In the case of my delegation, I would also try to propose that this situation, that we considered to be some sort of illegal in our interpretation of the rules of procedure, or contrary to the rules of procedure, to be more precise, to be solved through a working group whose mandate I would propose. Of course, as any proposal coming from the Bureau is open to the consideration of the plenary. My suggestion would be that if we want to deal with the budget, and we're all concerned about the future of this organization, and then something we can do is we started this morning to deal with this issue. I don't think that those leaving the room should have the privilege of interrupting our consideration of this issue in the agenda. So we finish it up without the chance of going for a vote because of the chair's interpretation of the rules of procedure. And then we can proceed with the rest of the agenda we had in front of us. I think that sort of compromise with the countries who are not actually who are interpreting the rules of procedure in a way that it's absolutely contrary to the purpose of this organization. But anyway, I mean, since we have a controversy, a dispute, I think the best way forward is to finish this item with all the statements we want to make on this, with a proposal of a way out through the working group with a clear mandate to do away with the rules of procedure allowing for this sort of behavior. And then, so we continue with the rest and we keep the organization alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Argentina. So I will now, after explaining how I intend to deal with this afternoon's session, I will now open the agenda item 7, which is proposals to amend the schedule, and agenda item 7.1, which is proposal of a schedule amendment to create a South Atlantic whale sanctuary. And as this proposal was put forward at this meeting to come with a decision. Decision requires quorum in this room, but quorum is currently not reached in this room because the following countries are present at the meeting, but not present in the room. Antigua and Barbuda, Benin, Cambodia, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Republic of Guinea, Iceland, Kiribati, Laos, Liberia, Mauritania, Morocco, Nauru, Republic of Palau, St. Lucia, and Solomon Islands. With these countries not being present in the room, there are not 45 contracting governments currently registered for this meeting present in the room. And therefore, we cannot take decisions, but as explained already before by Commissioner from Argentina, we will open the debate now. So the debate is open, and first on my floor is Brazil. Please take the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to hear the group members of the group of Buenos Aires about the decision of scheduling the work of this session the way you have proposed. I'd like to hear from them. Secondly, we want to question, we want to understand, and we want to know why the chairman has interpreted that the absence in the room is the way to judge the quorum for approval of the motion. Because as you just mentioned, the countries that are present in the meeting, you just said that, you listed the countries that are present in the meeting but not present in the room. If they are present in the meeting, I understand, Mr. Chairman, that there is quorum. They are present in the room, they are outside of the room. They are present in the meeting, outside of the room because they're going to take a coffee. And so I wonder why we are not allowed to vote. We would like to understand that very clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. The rules of procedure in this context are very short and brief, and they say that majority of contracting governments represent a quorum, and there is nothing more on that. There have been similar situations in the past where countries have interpreted this further in a different manner, so they couldn't reach an agreement on that. But at both of those meetings, voting regarding a decision or also regarding conclusion of any other recommendations or decisions was not taken as approved. And there was a long discussion on this where these matters remained unresolved, and for the conduct of this meeting, where we have critical decisions to adopt, I also concluded that we are not in a position where we could reach an agreement on this, and I don't see that it would be productive for our meeting and for our outcomes to start a discussion and whatever potential votes further also on what is a quorum, because that, as I said, has been discussed for several days at previous meetings where all or contracting governments or most of the contracting governments present here were also present. So you might recall that debate, and there was no conclusion reached. There is a possibility that this part of the rules of procedure would be further developed in the intersessional period by most probably working group on operational effectiveness. Thank you. I see Brazil wants to come back, so I will ask to pass the floor to Brazil and then to Colombia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you just said, it is an inconclusive matter. So if it's an inconclusive matter, it's open for discussion. And I strongly reject the decision of assuming that the lack of quorum at the meeting in the room itself is basis for interpreting there is no quorum. I strongly disagree with that position because there's no decision on that. It's not written in the rules of procedures, and we're only basing on a precedent. A precedent doesn't make a rule, not in the Roman law, at least. Maybe in the Anglo-Saxon common law, but not in the Roman law. So I disagree with your decision respectfully, and I would like to urge the United States as head of the finance administration to deal with that matter, to define what is quorum and what is not, and when we have quorum, when we don't have quorum, as a most important decision for the rules of procedure of the organization, because the organization cannot continue to be subjected to blackmail and sabotage from a group of countries. This is not the way to go forward. I'm sorry. We need to stand up for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. I pass the floor to Colombia, followed by Uruguay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much. I cannot be more disappointed with this decision, unfortunately. And it was neither what we thought it was going to be. It was quite hard for me to come, and we did great efforts to be here. And not only personally, but I guess also nationally, it is very hard for us to go back to our capital and say, listen, guys, you sent somebody for nothing. And for nothing just because of the fact that we are accepting a manner which is undemocratic to take an important but symbolic decision. And I want to leave here the fact that we do not agree at all with this manner to proceed. It is not a manner to proceed, not discussing why they are not, or they do disagree with us, with the fact of creating a symbol, an important symbol to the world in this specific and dramatic moment. So I want to leave clear that we do not agree with this manner, with this way to proceed in the multilateral scenes. And we would like to proceed on the manner that we decided prior to this meeting. It could be interesting to discuss this issue with all the countries around a table. There is no way in the 21st century we cannot talk about these kind of issues. So my suggestion is to bring again to this issue to the discussion when everybody gets back to this place, to this assembly. Thank you, Chair, with all respect.
Thank you, Colombia. Uruguay, followed by Costa Rica.
Gracias, señor presidente. Yo quería sumarme a las posturas de Brasil, de Colombia, expresadas recientemente. Para nosotros es un claro chantaje, una ofensa, cuando uno trata de llegar a un consenso y lidiar de la mejor manera posible. Para un país como nosotros es muy difícil también estar aquí, ciertamente. Es un esfuerzo enorme, inclusive como país europeo, que pagamos como si fuera un país europeo, la cuota año a año. Yo creo que para volver a mi país y decir que votamos solamente un presupuesto y ese fue el único resultado, difícilmente, no estoy diciendo que no, pero difícilmente podamos volver a estar. Nosotros como sugerencia lo que queremos proponer, creo que ya hemos conversado con algunos países de esto, es que se tome como referencia el quórum que tuvimos hoy de mañana. Fue otra sesión, cierto, pero ¿por qué no? ¿O acaso esta tercera ocasión que ya está ocurriendo, esto va a ser una nueva regla? Porque si el quórum es una regla, se está imponiendo una nueva regla por tercera vez, si no mal recuerdo, porque esto ya ocurrió. Entonces estamos aceptando una regla impuesta. Por lo tanto, me parece que tenemos que tener, y esto es algo que hemos visto en otras organizaciones internacionales, una postura un poco más firme, porque esto es una ofensa a los países. Nosotros hemos informado a nuestro presidente de la República para que se comunique directamente con los presidentes de las naciones que no están aquí hoy, porque esto es una ofensa a nuestros países. y difícilmente nosotros podamos justificar otra vez estar aquí. Entonces, si no logramos realmente esto que tratamos de hacer que sea un consenso, porque si esto no es polarizar la CBI, ¿qué es? Claramente. Entonces, acá se cae una máscara o un discurso que no es cierto. Nosotros proponemos que por favor se reconsidere lo que significa un quórum realmente, porque hoy hubo quórum, o yo entonces vi una imagen surreal. Lo que podemos pensar también es que todos comieron algunos mariscos contaminados y están todos con un problema en algún lado de las habitaciones también, para no pensar mal, ¿no? Podríamos también pensar que, bueno, estuvieron ausentes por razones personales de salud y tuvimos que seguir adelante. Y el quórum hay que reconciliarlo de otra manera. Si no, de esta comisión no vamos a sacar nada más que un presupuesto para que siga funcionando. ¿Para qué? Es una modesta opinión. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Uruguay, Costa Rica, followed by India.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Costa Rica está apoyando lo dicho por Brasil, Uruguay, Colombia y otros de los países del GBA que han mencionado la importancia de seguir tal cual teníamos planificado estas sesiones. Nos interesa mucho que precisamente no se haga una regla esto de esta costumbre de levantarse para dejar sin aparente quórum este foro internacional. Y me preocupa mucho y creo que todos nos hemos estado dando cuenta que estas reglas de procedimientos o cómo las hemos venido interpretando están afectando a este foro internacional en todos sus espacios. Uno de los elementos con los que por lo menos nosotros justificamos que Costa Rica esté aquí es ese tesoro tan grande que tenemos por el comité científico. Un comité científico que necesitamos mantener y para eso necesitamos, digamos, estamos también acá hablando de subir la cuota. Pero si allá afuera hay un montón de plata, hay mucha plata. La gente, hay muchos sponsors que quisieran y que tienen financiamiento para ayudar a las ballenas, pero ninguno se va a articular con una organización como esta, donde estamos totalmente agarrados de manos, ¿no? O sea, no, estamos casi que secuestrados por un grupo de personas, de países o de views, más bien de puntos de vista que hablan del uso sostenible de las ballenas, cuando no. ¿Cuántos de esos países que están ahí, que se fueron de acá, usan las ballenas? Hay países del Caribe que es de acá que no utilizan las ballenas, sus pobladores. Entonces, ¿cuál es el interés de acá? Entonces, concluyo mi declaración, nada más subrayando la importancia de mantener el quórum. Puede haber implicaciones, dicen, ok, veamos cuáles son esas implicaciones, votemos el santuario, veamos cuáles son las implicaciones que tenemos por delante y seguimos. Gracias.
Thank you, Costa Rica. India, followed by Chile.
Thank you, Chair. We are in support with the Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. Every country's commissioner are here with their delegates. They have come and to participate with expectations from IWC. Now stage has come to a deadlock. The quorum is an important issue for all the future delegates meetings. In the past also, this quorum issue has been deliberated. Normally, quorum means simply 50% plus 1. The rule of business says the attendance by a majority of the members shall constitute a quorum. If it is not quantifiable, India suggests what is the definitions of quorum for the United Nations General Assembly. So quorum must be finalized first. It will create a future problem as well. Not only today's issues, tomorrow's issues also will be seen in that perspective. So let us define first quorum. What is quorum? Thank you.
Thank you, India. Chile, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Chile solidariza plenamente con la posición, primero con la frustración y a raíz de ella con la posición que ha expresado Brasil en esto y que ha sido respaldada con con la expresión de otros países, en el sentido de que es necesario que vayamos a una votación en este caso. Las reglas de procedimiento reflejan claramente que hay un vacío en esto que no hemos podido saber interpretar. Es importante que resolvamos este asunto ahora. Chile solidariza, repito, con la posición de Brasil. Gracias, presidente.
Thank you very much for your valuable views. I have Argentina, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Antes de cerrar este punto de la agenda, le voy a agradecer que se registre en el informe de esta reunión la declaración que sigue, que también voy a acercar por secretaría traducida. Siendo que usted está tomando la decisión de no proceder a votación sobre el punto de agenda 7.1, entendemos que su interpretación de la regla de procedimiento B de las reglas de procedimiento, en lo que se refiere al quórum necesario para esa interpretación supone entender el concepto de attendance como presence in the room, interpretación que mi delegación no comparta y considera incorrecta. Por ello solicitamos que quede registrado que la delegación argentina considera que los conceptos de attendance y participation no son sinónimos y que por ello, a fines del cálculo del quórum, deben considerarse a todos los estados registrados y presentes en la reunión, aun cuando decidan deliberadamente abandonar la sala en puntos específicos de la agenda. El concepto de attendance es utilizado en numerosas disposiciones de las reglas de procedimiento, entre ellas la regla D1A, en la que puntualmente se refiere a participation and or attendance at each meeting, lo cual deja en claro que se trata de conceptos diferentes y que en consecuencia puede haber delegaciones que estén attending but not participating. Por lo expresado, solicitamos que el grupo de trabajo sobre efectividad operativa trabaje intersesionalmente sobre la interpretación de este punto, en particular de la regla B. Room B as in Bernard, last paragraph sobre quórum, a fin de presentar una propuesta para la reunión plenaria número 69 a celebrarse en 2024, que sea tratada como primera orden del día antes de que se adopte cualquier otra decisión, porque esta situación se arrastra desde hace más de una década. Deseamos expresar que la propuesta del Santuario de Ballenas del Atlántico Sur probablemente hubiera sido aprobada, en esta sesión, después de 20 años de esfuerzos, de no retirarse las delegaciones de 17 estados, cuyos nombres solicitamos que queden indicados en el informe de esta reunión. Dado que hasta ahora yo no he escuchado desde el podio cuáles son esos estados, señor presidente, le pediría que los mencione para que fueron mencionados, perdón. Sorry. Son 17 estados que en otros foros declaman horrorizados las consecuencias de otros problemas ambientales que enfrenta la comunidad internacional. Pero este problema parece merecer otro tratamiento. Lamentamos la falta de coherencia y de compromiso que este tipo de conducta refleja. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Argentina. I have Dominican Republic followed by Australia.
Buena. Como un país ballenero que somos, República Dominicana, ya que poseemos uno de los más grandes santuarios de mamíferos marinos, cuando vinimos aquí con mucho esfuerzo, pensábamos que veníamos a donde se protegía la especie, pero parece que estamos equivocados. No llegamos donde pensábamos que veníamos. Nos solidarizamos rotundamente con Brasil y el Grupo de Buenos Aires. Gracias.
Thank you, Dominican Republic. Australia followed by Norway.
Thank you, Chair. Australia is deeply disappointed with the manner in which events have occurred here today that have impacted so seriously on the Commission's decision-making procedures. The parties that purposefully excluded themselves from the room have directly undermined the good faith governance of this Commission. Their actions are clearly motivated to exploit the uncertainty in the interpretation of the rules of procedure that deal with when the Commission has a quorum and is able to make decisions. This is not the first time that such poor behaviour on this issue has occurred, and we deeply regret that some parties have chosen to behave in this manner. Australia believes it is a matter of great regret that the Commission finds itself in such a difficult position in debating and deciding upon the creation of the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary, which, for the record, Australia strongly supports. Irrespective of the outcome we're able to reach here at IWC68 on the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary, this Commission must ensure that this undermining of the IWC's decision-making procedures cannot happen again. To this end, we recommend that the first order of business at IWC69 should be agreeing new wording around our rules of procedures on when a quorum exists at the Commission. The new text must ensure that proper standards of governance and decision-making can be maintained. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia. Norway followed by the US.
Thank you. I guess that I made my position rather clear before we break previous to today, but we cannot start to interpret established rules of procedure at random just because we don't like the situation we are facing. So we should also, in this case, stick to the procedure so currently described by the chairman of the FNI. And to bring in the costs, travel costs, whatever, into this discussion is, of course, absolutely irrelevant. Other states have also, in other areas, paid a lot of money to come here in good faith and obviously been very disappointed about the outcome of discussion so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Norway. US followed by Mexico.
Thank you, Chair. The United States had come to this meeting prepared to make progress on a range of issues before this Commission. We were truly hoping for a cooperative and productive environment that would show how this organization could work together on the conservation and management of whales. The United States remains a steadfast advocate for the South Atlantic whale sanctuary, and we share in the frustrations expressed here about what is happening today. It is deeply regretful that a small number of delegations are choosing to block decision-making on this issue, and we agree the actions of these members are polarizing and put the Commission in an unfortunate state. However, I do want to be clear from a United States perspective, it is our belief that a quorum is needed for decision-making, and the requirement for a quorum is an ongoing one. Decisions of the Commission should not be made by a minority of members, which is what could happen if quorum only counted at the outset of the meeting. With that said, we acknowledge this is an issue that has happened before, and we acknowledge we have just heard alternate interpretations of the current rules of procedure, which we admit are not quite clear. Therefore, we fully agree with delegations who are strongly recommending that we address any of these differences of interpretation through changes of our rules of procedure at IWC69 as a first order of business. We must not repeat the events of this year, which impede the work of the Commission and cast the Commission in a poor light. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, US. Mexico, followed by Panama.
Gracias, señor presidente. Bueno, que no quiero alargar mucho esto porque ya mencionaron lo frustrante que es. Escuchamos a otros países decir que se sentían humillados, etcétera. Y ahora los humillados creo que somos nosotros. Y quiero recalcar y adherirme de todo corazón con las palabras que expresadas por la delegación de Argentina. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Panama, followed by Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente. En ese sentido, también nos adherimos a la declaración que hizo anteriormente Argentina y recomendamos muy amablemente al Comité de Gobernanza que pueda revisar las reglas de procedimiento sobre la definición de un quórum, puesto que esto nos pone en una situación para poder desarrollarse una reunión, debe existir un quórum, si no, no se puede hacer una discusión. Entonces, compartimos la frustración y solicitamos muy amablemente que se pueda revisar nuevamente. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Colombia. New Zealand.
Gracias, señor presidente. De nuevo, manifestar nuestra amargura, nuestra sorpresa como país representado en estas instancias y ponernos perfectamente en línea con la declaración de Argentina que nosotros sostenemos. Gracias.
Thank you. Colombia. New Zealand, followed by the UK.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand is dismayed that we have found ourselves in this situation. We are deeply disappointed that after hearing from all members in the last 3.5 days about their commitment to this organisation, that 17 countries have chosen to withdraw from the room and undermine our decision-making capability. New Zealand, for the record, would like to reiterate that we strongly support the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary, and we also support the proposal that the first order of business at IWC69 is to address the rules of procedure. Specifically, we need a clear and legally reasoned statement on definition of a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. UK, followed by the Czech Republic.
Thank you, Chair. As others, we entered the meeting to make progress and in good faith, and we are also deeply concerned in the manner in which proceedings have unfolded with the actions of a small number blocking how the IWC takes forward its core important work and decision-making. For the record, we would, as the United Kingdom, have supported the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary, as already stated earlier in proceedings, and we certainly agree with others for the need to make sure this does not happen again in terms of the way that proceedings have unfolded, and therefore fully support the intersessional work that has been proposed with the decision early at IWC 69. Thank you.
Thank you, UK, Czech Republic.
Thank you,
Followed by
Mr.
Costa
Chair.
Rica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the Czech Republic, speaking on behalf of the EU member states party to the convention, would like to voice disappointment, serious disappointment for the current situation and manner of this discussion. Anyway, we would strongly echo the intervention made by Australia and also Argentina. I would like to reconfirm the strong support of the EU member states party to the ICRW for the schedule amendment on the South Atlantic Whale Sanctuary. Furthermore, we would like also strongly support what was meant that this issue needs to be solved as soon as possible and should be discussed as the first order on the next IWC 69 meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Czech Republic, Costa Rica, followed by Ecuador.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Para mejor tomar decisión, quisiera solicitar a la Secretaría su asesoramiento respecto al procedimiento o la regla de procedimientos. Si se deja para el trabajo intersesional, el arreglo de decidir qué es quórum y esos detalles para verlo como primer punto en la próxima reunión de las partes, igual eventualmente los países que no están de acuerdo con hacer ese procedimiento se pueden volver a levantar. Eso es lo que creo yo que puede pasar. O sea, vamos a estar, como dicen en mi país, pateando la bola, porque lo hacen siempre que necesitan no aceptar alguna nueva regla que no les conviene. Entonces me parece que esto es algo que hay que arreglar pronto. También quería preguntarle si entonces el punto 8 de la agenda lo vamos a ver antes del break del café. O sea, sería dentro de esta misma sesión que vemos el punto 7 y el punto 8. O si el punto 8 lo veríamos después del café. Gracias.
Thank you, Costa Rica. I can immediately ask to your last question. Point 8 will be approached after the coffee break. For the rest of the answers, I would come after the interventions, and I pass the floor to Ecuador, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nos sumamos a las declaraciones realizadas por Brasil, Argentina y Uruguay. Lastimosamente, nos encontramos embarcados en esta temática. No hemos podido pasar a la votación. Sin embargo, esperamos que de parte de la presidencia exista el análisis suficiente para poderlo hacer en el día de hoy. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ecuador. I have two NGOs. I will also pass the floor to them, and then we'll continue. First one.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Yo hoy represento aquí el Instituto Ballena Jorobada de Brasil, pero he tenido el dudoso honor de ser posiblemente el delegado más antiguo en esta comisión. Este es el 38º año que participo y espero que el presidente concluya así. Gracias. Y que participo en esta comisión en distintas posiciones, como comisionado alterno, como jefe de la Delegación Científica de Brasil y ahora como observador no gubernamental. Nunca en estos 38 años he sentido vergüenza de ser parte de esta comisión. Y ahora dudo acerca de sentir o no como un honor estar presente aquí. Porque se ve que siempre que están en juego intereses directos de los países del Grupo Buenos Aires, o del grupo de países en desarrollo que utiliza las ballenas de manera no letal, hay maneras y trucos y estafas para que no se voten y no se aprueben las medidas fundamentales para la protección de nuestros intereses. No es así con otras medidas de interés, por ejemplo, de honorables países del hemisferio norte, que cuando necesitan reaprobar sus cuotas aborígenes, hacen con que las sesiones entren por la noche, hacen con que las reglas se interpreten en la manera que necesitan. Y en el caso nuestro, hay siempre maneras de no votar, de no discutir, de no aprobar y no incorporar los temas que a nosotros nos interesan. Digo eso con el máximo respeto y simpatía por su posición, usted que siempre ha conducido la presidencia de la manera más honorable. Pero creemos, con todo el respeto, que usted se equivoca. Se equivocó al abrir este punto de decisión en una sesión, porque ya lo habíamos discutido, y hoy, el jueves, se decidiría sobre el santuario del Atlántico Sur. Usted abrió la sesión y, por tanto, implícitamente reconoció haber quórum. Al decir que no hay quórum, creo que usted se equivoca, y en habiendo un desafío a su ruling, creo que también usted se equivoca en no haber reconsiderado. Pero así son las cosas. Se ve que hay una preocupación de muchos otros distinguidos comisionados con la aprobación del presupuesto, pero más que el presupuesto, desconsiderar, insultar a un bloque entero de países en esta comisión que trabaja de buena fe para llevar adelante sus trabajos es mucho más dañino para la comisión que no tener acuerdo acerca del presupuesto. Les invito a todos a reflexionar sobre esto. Si el Grupo Buenos Aires y uno más de sus aliados sacar el quórum de la decisión de presupuesto, se acabaría esta sesión y se colocaría la comisión en una profunda crisis. No lo harán porque están aquí de buena fe, al contrario de muchos otros. Y no es posible que las decisiones siempre beneficien a los que están aquí de mala fe. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I pass the floor to the second NGO.
It's me. No, I want to align myself completely with the words just expressed by my colleague José Truda Palazzo. I think he put it very clearly and very well, the dilemma that we are facing here at the organization. I heard many words now of disappointment, strong support, declarations, and so on. I want to say, Mr. Chairman, that this is not sufficient. We need to end this appalling behavior of some delegations that are here sabotaging the work of this organization. Rules must be changed in order to make this organization functional, and this is urgent. I would like to ask Mr. Chairman yourself to keep this point, this item open for further consultations from the Group of Buenos Aires. Thank you.
Thank you. Before coming to NGOs, I have to come back to you. Which point you mean? Discussion and vote on proposal of a schedule amendment to create a South Atlantic whale sanctuary, or the points that were discussed now with regard to attendance and quorum?
Both. I think one has to do with the other. I think the item of this item 7.1 and the question of quorum, of course, is related directly. I think we need to have this open for further consultations. Thank you.
Thank you. I will pass the floor to two NGOs, and then I will temporarily adjourn this agenda item, and I will adjourn the session for a few minutes before going into the coffee break. Thank you. Pass the floor to next NGO.
I'm speaking on behalf of Opus Oceani Foundation. As this meeting knows, Opus Oceani Foundation is not favorable toward the sanctuary and we are sympathetic to the views of the people not in the room. But the situation we find ourselves in is not compatible with good governance. This is a sign of dysfunctionality, so it cannot be ignored and it cannot be allowed to happen again. It would also not be correct to go on with business as usual right now as if this hadn't happened. We must tackle this issue head on. But two wrongs don't make a right. So we cannot ignore the rules regarding the quorum, which are long established. There's no doubt that decisions are always best when there's consensus. Having listened to the debate here, Opus Oceani Foundation is minded to endorse these suggestions from Australia, New Zealand, and the UK for resolving this matter in the future. And we suggest that today it would be best if we could take time out for the two sides to get around the table to sort this problem out. But we accept that this might be a naive hope.
Thank you. I pass the floor to second NGO.
Gracias, señor presidente. Deseo traer la voz de los ciudadanos que en mi país y de los países de la región latinoamericana y de una gran mayoría de países, una vez nos vemos que países que no pertenecen a nuestra región bloquean el santuario. La propuesta tiene bases científicas y un plan de manejo con objetivos claros. La polarización de intereses no puede impedir su aprobación. Nuestra voz, mi voz hoy aquí, representa el interés de millones de ciudadanos que esperan con ansias la creación de este santuario, para dar mayor protección a las especies que utilizamos en forma no letal y no extractiva. Este sabotaje se basa en no aceptar justamente que hay una mayoría de países que quiere proteger y restaurar poblaciones de ballenas. Hoy nos están negando la posibilidad de volver a nuestros países con este tan ansiado santuario. Eso es lo que quiero expresar hoy aquí. Gracias.
Thank you. Please pass the floor to the last NGO.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Yo soy de Whale Dolphin Conservation, una organización internacional, y soy de Argentina. A su vez, quería expresar la verdad que las palabras de mis compañeros José y Roxana son las adecuadas en este momento, lo que estamos sintiendo en este momento. Nuestra mayor preocupación es que cada vez que no nos guste algún tema, las personas se levanten y se puedan ir y no poder conversar, discutir y llegar a un consenso. Eso refleja muy poca gobernanza. Entonces pedimos encarecidamente, así como se les pide respeto a todos los países que se quedaron, que los países que se fueran también respetes a los que se quedaron. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. With this, I adjourn this agenda item and I adjourn this session temporarily. I hope we are able to continue within 10 minutes, and I would kindly invite delegations from Brazil, Argentina, US, and Australia to join me in the chair's room, which is there behind, to look for a way forward with respect to this meeting. Thank you. The session is adjourned. I kindly invite delegations to take the seats so that we can reopen and then conclude on agenda item 7. I see delegations are entering, so I'll wait for another minute. I understand that I have to express myself more clearer next time, because I said it will be adjourned only for 10 minutes, not for a coffee break. But I understand that after a heavy debate, you were tempted, of course, I will be as well, to take coffee and food. But thank you for entering again, and I open the agenda item 7, proposals to amend the schedule, and I open this first part of the afternoon session. Again, on the agenda item 7.1, proposal of a schedule amendment to create a South Atlantic whale sanctuary. We have heard the positions and broad support for this proposal already during the introduction of the proposal. We have heard there was no possibility to accept it by consensus, and we are faced currently with a very inappropriate situation where a number of countries are not in the room, and therefore we don't have a quorum. We have heard several proposals how to try to progress with this situation, and how to try to really come to rules of procedure that are clear in this context, so that at next IWC meetings we don't enter into such situations anymore. And my understanding of the last proposal was that some delegations here are able to close this agenda item if we come to an agreement that intersessionally there will be work done to come to a proposal that will make rules of procedure much clearer with regard to attendance and quorum, and then this will be dealt as a first agenda item at the next IWC 69 before any other decisions are taken. So similarly, as we were dealing with the voting rights at this meeting, based on conclusions of previous, in this case, virtual special meeting. I understand this group supports this proposal. Are there any objections to this proposal? No, then I would address this proposal again in order to get a confirmation at the agenda item 6.3, where we are already addressing certain proposals on the work that Working Group on Operational Effectiveness should do in the intersessional period. And I believe this proposal can then be also adopted like other proposals from the Working Group on Operational Effectiveness with the consensus. I understand there is an insurance on this from the Pro-Sustainable Use Group as well. So if so, this is a conclusion that will be also reflected in minutes of the meeting, and of course it will be part of the terms of reference of the work of the Operational Effectiveness Working Group during the intersessional period. Any objections to this proposed way? I see none. So with this, then I would close the agenda item 7.1, proposal of a schedule amendment to create a South Atlantic whale sanctuary. I see no objection, so this agenda item is closed for this meeting, and I adjourn this session now for a real coffee break. As you already had half of it, I kindly ask you to be back at 5:30, and I plan to continue with the meeting for at least half an hour, so that we can at least hear the essential parts of the agenda item 6.3. So thank you. Now enjoy, please, coffee and snacks, and we meet again at 5:30 in this room. Thank you. I opened the agenda item 6, finance and administration, and precisely the agenda item 6.3, discussion. I'll remind you that we had an important document to discuss and to adopt before the end of this meeting here, that is our biennial budget. And we also have documents from the working group on operational effectiveness that could be close to adoption by consensus here. And I would first start with this one, where I also inform all the delegations that at the agenda item 7.1, sanctuaries, there was a proposal formed to task the working group on operational effectiveness that during the intersessional period, it develops proposed changes of rules of procedure that will make clearer our rules regarding quorum and attendance, and that this should be dealt with as the first agenda item at the next IWC 69, and before any decisions are taking place. With this, I would pass to co-chair, to chair of the FNA, to inform us first on those documents from the working group of operational effectiveness. And then as a second item, I would discuss the budget. So US, please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll be speaking to what is on the website under 5.1 and 6.1. It says new WGOE paper 2, revised proposals. The current version that's on the website is Rev 1, so I'll speak to that and then verbally explain what you just noted regarding the discussion we just had. So as a reminder, this document was trying to reflect the governance reform proposals only. As you can recall, there's also the budget reform strategy, the strategic principles document, still there for a working group on operational effectiveness proposals. I was tasked with working with delegations to come up with portions of the governance reform proposals that potentially could be adopted by consensus. So as you will see here in this document, Rev 1, the proposed changes to the commission structure, that would be the 4 new committees, including the new management committee, have been removed. So instead, what is being put forward for potential decision at this meeting are changes to the Bureau. In particular, 2 changes. One related to Bureau operations, staggering the Bureau membership to provide both familiarity and continuity, as well as a relevant regional balance. And 2, having Bureau documents being generally made available in advance of meetings, except those which are sensitive and or need to remain confidential. And I would note we had some discussions by the commissioners on this, and I can clarify that when we are talking about confidential documents, these are expected to be rare occasions or and in particular in occasions where they need to remain confidential to be compliant, for example, with UK data protection laws. But the intent is that the majority, if not all, of documents would be made in advance and be available not just to the Bureau, but all delegations. Then going to commission meeting operations. This set of recommendations relates to changes that you have seen in previous governance reform proposal. There is some changes here which I will walk through, but the overall idea is the same. In order to be more efficient with our subcommittee and committee work, you would open with a plenary session at future meetings. Could be a half day, could be a full day. Introduce schedule amendments, rule changes, propose resolutions, get any feedback as necessary. And then you would go into some duration of private commissioners and subgroup meetings. This is a little bit new. You'll see a half day to 3 days. This is talking about the in-person part of the meeting, and the previous proposals that were out there did conflict a little bit. There was some that talked about this in-person structure, but then also talked about the potential for these committees to meet virtually prior to plenary in this new structure. So this is really direction to the commission, giving it the flexibility needed based on budget constraints for how long and how many days and what duration you would then break for those subgroups or private commissioners before returning to at least 2 days of plenary to discuss and adopt the reports and make any decisions on committee recommendations or proposals before the commission. Now, none of what I just described is hardwired, if you will, into the rules of procedure. It is merely would be agreement by the commission as a recommended future structure. But if that structure was adopted when you did get back into second plenary in order to make this work, as we've discussed at the Operational Effectiveness Working Group, you would need to be able to give the chair the ability to prohibit debate or raising issues that were not raised either in the first plenary session or during those committee meetings, unless these very specific rules of procedure were followed to open debate on a new issue. And again, the intent to this is if you're going to shorten the meetings, if you're going to make it very concise, when we meet in person in the future for budgetary and other reasons, there has to be some manner to address this. So that is the same proposal that was there before and that the Operational Working Group developed over the past 4 years. So none of those changes to the rules of procedure are new. I'm just reminding delegations what those are. And then there's general direction that the rules of procedure should be a standing agenda item for F&A. And that, of course, if you are going to streamline future meetings, you should simplify and prioritize your agendas. Again, that's not a rule of procedure change, just general direction. So in conclusion, on what I just read out, the only rules of procedure changes which you can see in the appendix to the document. There would be changes to Rule M9 on the Bureau to extend the appointment period of the 4 commissioners representing a range of views. You'd also have to stagger it potentially with a decision at this meeting when we get to that agenda item. And then there would be changes to Rule M1 and rules of debate and Rule Q regarding both commission documents and the arrangements of debate with as it pertains to the second plenary that I just walked through. Then finally, you will see, oh, we have it on the screen now. Okay, thank you. Can you scroll up? Nope. Oh, this is the rules of procedure changes, yes, that I just walked through. So that is Rule of procedure M1, M9, and Q. This is the agenda. Excuse me, this is the appendix that I just walked through that would have the rules of procedure changes relevant to the proposals that I just discussed. And if you could scroll further up. And stop here, yes. So this is a slightly revised document that's on the website. I appreciate the Secretariat putting it on the screen before delegations. The final piece of the proposals would be to direct the working group on operational effectiveness with specific intersessional tasks for the next biennium. This first bullet is new, so it is not in the document on the website, so please do look at the screen. This is related to what the chair just spoke on. Would be that the working group would develop a proposal that addresses quorum, which is in Rule of Procedure B1, to be discussed as the first item of business at IWC69 before any other decisions are adopted. So that is new based on the discussion we just had earlier, agenda item 7. The remaining 6 bullets, I will briefly walk through. Those are on the website in that document. And the first, the second bullet on the screen would be, of course, the operational effectiveness working group could continue to consider any proposals that were put to this meeting that were not adopted. Then the third bullet on the screen in front of you relates to the rule of procedure change and financial regulation change. We agreed at the very beginning of this meeting on voting rights, and it would task the operational effectiveness working group with looking at defining criteria for what constitutes exceptional circumstances in the future. As we know, the global pandemic was the exceptional circumstance for this meeting. The next 2 bullets were presented when we discussed voting rights as well. The further consideration of a proposal to align voting rights suspension with the biennial meeting schedule and allow contracting governments in arrears to participate in intersessional decision-making, as well as the further consideration of a proposal to make payment plans more accessible. Those were option 2 and option 3 of the voting rights proposals. So as we discussed earlier, there was broad support for the working group to still continue to look into these with the potential to come up with a proposal at the next meeting. And we also heard an F&A committee, and when I reported out on this earlier, that there were issues raised by delegations related to obtaining visas for contracting governments and how that affects IWC participation. And so that was also recommended both in committee as well as earlier in plenary that be looked at by the working group on operational effectiveness. And then finally, when we last discussed this agenda item, there was delegations that raised the potential for this body to consider meetings in a hybrid format or absentee voting, specifically getting at the ability for contracting governments to participate. And so this would also direct the working group on operational effectiveness to consider that as part of its intersessional tasks. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions, but that presents my report of the current operational effectiveness proposals and associated rules of procedure that on governance reform that we would put for this commission for discussion, debate, and potential adoption, as well as these intersessional tasks for the working group on operational effectiveness that we would then direct the group to work on during the next biennium. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian, F&A committee. This document is available on the web, and there are very few changes that were made just recently. So I would check the mood in the room if we can go for adoption by consensus of this document? Is there anybody who has difficulties with this? That's first checking. I see no request for the floor. So I'm actually tempted to temporarily adjourn the agenda item 6.3 and open the agenda item 6.4, which is adoption. Okay, I see Costa Rica. Costa Rica, please take the floor.
Gracias. Quería saber si es todo el documento o solo lo que estaba en la pantalla. Presidente, a ver si me puede aclarar.
Thank you, Costa Rica. Basically, it's entire document because the first part of the document, as it was explained by the chair of the FNA, talks also about bureau membership and commission meeting operations. Not only about the rules of procedure change, and also on intersessional tasks for the working group on operational effectiveness. And I remind you that the whole document is available on the web page. You just have to refresh if they don't appear. But please, Costa Rica, I don't know if I answered your question sufficiently.
Sí, quería pedir su indulgencia para que nos dé un chancecito para estar seguros de cuál exactamente es el documento que estaríamos aprobando. Gracias.
Thank you. Can I ask Mark to please come back and show from the web page this document? And the title of the document is FA, if this helps, FA/68/4.1.2 Rev 1/02/ English, because it's English version. I mean, the second part is not important. You probably have a Spanish one. Please, Mike, too.
As you can see on the web page, it's actually appearing under item 5.1 and 6.1 here at the top. And then here, we're just about to change the title of that one so that we'll have a rev after it. So you should be able to find it there. Thank you.
I hope that helped Costa Rica. You have to refresh your web page. If you are looking at it several times, it doesn't appear. I mean, what I wanted to say is, if you have used that web page yesterday, for example, and you don't refresh it, the document will not appear there. That's because of the settings we have on most of our browsers. I also understood the intervention from Costa Rica as questions, not necessarily as having difficulties by adopting this document. Is my interpretation correct? Please, floor to Costa Rica.
Sí, no, presidente, no era una pregunta, es que estaba confundida con los documentos que están subidos, pero ya lo encontré. Muchas gracias. Y no tengo problema.
Thank you, Costa Rica. So I will ask, can we adopt this document by consensus? Any objections? I see no objections, so the document on working group on operational effectiveness, the revised proposals, is adopted. Thank you. Now, let us move to the biennial budget proposal. And I would pass the floor to Australia to brief us on latest developments.
Thank you, Chair. This will be a fairly quick update. So following the discussion during the private commissioners meeting this morning and reflecting on the uncertain global situation and the unique challenges affecting countries with developing and emerging economies, the budgetary subcommittee is working with the Secretariat to prepare a new so-called option 1.5 for the Commission's consideration. This option will present an approach whereby, for the next biennium, contributions would not increase for capacity to pay Group 1 and 2 countries. Contributions for these countries would remain at their current level. Contributions for capacity to pay Group 3 and 4 countries would increase by the amounts proposed in option 2, which is 5% in 2023 and an additional 1% in 2024. Proposed savings would be a middle ground between options 1 and 2. They would still result in impacts to the Secretariat, research and meeting budgets, but these impacts would be less severe than under the existing option 1. We are working with the Secretariat this afternoon to develop the option, and it will be published imminently on the website for the Commission to consider overnight and come back to tomorrow. We will also look to publish some supporting documents, which will show both the range of increases for capacity to pay groups 3 and 4 under the new option, along with a bit of a compilation of some of the answers we provided to questions on the detailed line items over the past few days. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Australia, and I have to apologize to the podium. Before I would need to say I adjourn the agenda item 6.4 adoption, and I return to the agenda item 6.3 because discussion is under the agenda item 6.3 and then the intervention of Australia. So we are at 6.3 discussion, and we are hearing that there will be new proposals posted on web very soon with also new numbers. So my proposed handling of this document would be that we don't open really a discussion now, that you have a look at the document. I will adjourn this agenda item, and then we will again open this agenda item tomorrow after we have discussed and I hope agreed on the chair, vice chair, and election of the officers bureau. So after that, we would again address the budget and see how we can proceed with the budget at that time, how far we are. And I also invite you all to use still this evening, there are some social events still, to use this evening to contact delegation of Australia and Secretariat if you still have some questions or really pending proposals so that we could have adoption by consensus or close to consensus also on the budget tomorrow. I hope that handling of this agenda item is acceptable to everyone. No, any objections? No. With this, I adjourn also the agenda item 6 and 6.3. And given the discussions we had during today, I'm tempted to open the agenda item 8 on draft resolutions. We don't have much time left, but I would try to use 10 minutes because I think we could progress on this one, on the whole agenda item 8 quickly. And I would open the agenda item 8.1, resolution on marine plastic pollution. To my understanding, the proposal that was put on the web page yesterday, and that is the proposal. I will read the number of the document. So it's IWC68/68.1/01/Rev2 and then / whatever language you choose. That this document could be adopted by a consensus. And I would like to check if anybody in the room has any concerns with adopting this document by consensus. I see no request for the floor. So I will ask, can we adopt the resolution on marine plastic pollution, the document IWC68/8.1/01/Rev2 by consensus? Any objections? I see none. So the resolution on marine plastic is adopted. And I close the agenda item 8.1 and I open the agenda item 8.2, which is resolution on food security. To my understanding, there was a good progress done in the working group, but I would pass the floor to Ghana, who was dealing with this proposal, to report and to propose further action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes, we had good feedback from proposing countries, and but what was proposed and all the changes eventually ended up literally changing the spirit and letter of the food security resolution. So we intend to keep it there and work on it intersessionally and bring it back on the agenda at IWC69. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ghana. So I repeat conclusion that this resolution is temporarily withdrawn and will be dealt with at the next IWC meeting. Am I right?
Mr. Chair, we don't want to use the word withdrawn because we want to continue engaging in between sessions. and find a way to update the document and resubmit for IWC69. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I read message will not be put for decision at this meeting, but work will continue intersessionally and will be put forward for the next IWC meeting.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With this, I close the agenda item 8.2, resolution on food security, and I open the agenda item 8.3, which is resolution on the implementation of a conservation and management program for whale stocks aimed towards the lifting of the moratorium and the orderly development of the whaling industry. This is the document IWC68 /8.3/01, and then whatever language you use. To my understanding, there was also good work done on this resolution, and I would here pass also to the proponent, to one of the proponents, to explain us how they would like to handle this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Antigua and Barbuda, as the major proponent of this resolution, want to thank fellow commissioners for the advice and the input that were made into this document. It seems as if we still cannot reach a consensus, so we would not proceed further on this resolution under this agenda item for IWC 68, but we're hoping to do further work and engage in further consultations and cooperation with member countries here with a view to undertake an assessment and bring it back to IWC69 at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. So, to my understanding, like in the previous resolution, this resolution will not be put for decision at this meeting, and intersessional work will be done with the objective to present it at the next IWC meeting. Thank you. With this, I close the agenda item 8.3, and with this, I also close the agenda item 8, proposed resolutions. And with this, I adjourn the today's session, but please don't leave yet. There might be some practical announcements. We will have some side events soon. So maybe I pass the floor to Czech Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to take this opportunity and to invite all delegates to the EU reception, which will take place today at 7:30 p.m. in Grand Hotel Bernardin lobby. It's next to the Grand Cafe at the 11th floor. And indeed, all delegates are cordially invited to come and use this, let's say, more informal format to continue our debate, especially on budget, in hopefully more relaxed mood. And the drinks will be there waiting for you. So please come and continue with our deliberations there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would also use the opportunity to thank to our translators for all the work done and their flexibility to be ready, and interpreters, both, sorry, thanks to the interpreters to be ready whenever we need them, and thanks to translators to prepare us all those documents. And the ones I shouldn't forget already from the first day on, and apologies, is our technicians who make possible that we see all those documents and that we are able to have this voting system. So thank you very much. I invite you to open the curtains, so maybe we still get some sunset. And we will start with our meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock, sorry, at 9 o'clock. And that will be as in the timeline, agenda item 16. Apologies. Agenda item 15, sorry. Election of officer continued by the agenda item 16, bureau membership. Thank you.